Welcome to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to talk about what happens when your kid wants to fight.
So the big question is this: how are parents like us, who don't have a manual, who are doing the best we can, who feel as though we aren't enough, how are we going to raise healthy, happy children who we are proud of and still keep our sanity in that process? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Ryan Roy, and welcome to I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, a podcast for parents who are being real with themselves.
Hey, welcome back to this episode of I Don't Know Jack About Parenting, where today I'm going to be talking about what happens when your 7-year-old boy wants to fight. See, we have taught him to use his words, to use his mind, to walk away from situations. Someone who has a need to use his fists or push people around or bully somebody doesn't have anything else in their repertoire, right? This is what they resort to as the easiest thing, which is physicality. Now, that seems very logical and simple, and if the whole world thought that way, it would be really easy to convince your 7-year-old. Now, I may have mentioned in previous episodes that we started watching the Rocky series. We watched the entire Rocky series, 1 through 5, Rocky Balboa, I think is what it's called, or just Balboa, and then Creed 1 and 2. So he's watched this, and at some point, and I believe it's in Rocky 5, his son is watching him train somebody else, and they had lost their money, so they go back to the town he grew up in, and his son has to go to the rough neighborhood school that he went to as a child, and his son's just not really equipped. He's like, I'm worried about my boy, Baldy. You know, he's never had to deal with the stuff that I had to deal with. He's a smart kid. And within a couple days, they're like, oh, your dad's Rocky? And they beat him up and they say, hey, rich kid, we want your money. And he's like, I gotta eat. So his dad's training somebody. Rocky's training the new up-and-coming fighter. Spent a lot of time, but his son starts going to the gym. And at some point in the movie, the kid sticks up for himself. He beats up the bully. And now my son sees this. He's like, Dad, is that the right thing? I said, listen, sometimes in order to stop a bully, you need to punch him back in the mouth. And I'm not saying I want you to go out and punch anybody, but I really don't want you to be somebody else's punching bag. And if it persists, like these kids were doing to him, he did something about it. And I guarantee you, and in the movie, like they end up becoming friends. He's 7. He took this logic. He's on the bus coming home from school. Some kid comes up and tries to bully him. Oh, gosh. And he comes off the bus and the kid punches him in the stomach. And he comes off the bus prouder than he can imagine, than you can imagine. And he says, Dad, somebody in a bus punched me today. I'm like, what's his name? What happened? Like, Dad's gonna, talk to the bus driver or find out what goes on. He said, Dad, I took care of it. I punched him back like 10 times. And he walked away and he's like, oh, why are you being so mean to me? I said, wait a minute. You punched him back? He's like, yeah. I don't want anybody bullying me. Dad, I took care of him. So it's a fine line. And I'll just, listen, I don't know jack about parenting. I just know that I'm glad that my son, which, just so you know, he's kind of a quiet, humble, soft, like spoken, bright. I could use all kinds of things, but just picture this kid who's athletic, but he just doesn't want to harm anybody. Gets off the bus and he basically defended himself. So as a dad, again, I know jack about parenting. I don't know what to say to him in this moment, because the inside of me, I'm gloating that my son defended himself. Not that he hit somebody. I'm glad he's not being a pushover, because for lack, honestly, he kind of is a little bit. Like, he lets people do things to him because he doesn't want to hurt anybody. He doesn't want to, like, if I do something, I want to hurt somebody. Even if somebody's hurting him, he don't want to hurt them back. So I said, listen, number one, Daddy's not happy that you hit somebody. But I'm really happy that you defended yourself. And I know that makes no sense to you. But I don't want you going around hitting people because you know that you could defend yourself that way. Notice you defended yourself. I don't want you going throwing punches on somebody. And but you, young man, proud of you for defending yourself. Now, there are so many lessons that if you watch the Rocky movies, if you really pay attention, and there's the lessons in determination, the lessons of never giving up. You can hit the ground 20 times, but if you get up every time, you're still going to prevail and win. There's so many amazing lessons. Now, the lesson I did not think I was going to get almost immediately is that he could go and defend himself physically. But I got to tell you, I don't know if this is the right feeling. Moms out there probably thinking to yourselves, oh yeah, typical guy. He's so proud that his son went and punched somebody. Listen, I've never laid a hand on anybody. I've never had to. I've always been able to use my words, avoid situations, be really aware of my surroundings, which is what I try to instill in my kids. But man, I tell you, I am so proud, because I guarantee you he did it on the bus in front of 50 other kids, and people know he's going to protect himself. So guess what? They're not going to do that to him anymore. Why? Because they don't want to get punched back. Bullies punch people who don't punch back. And I'm just glad that he's not going to get punched on anymore. But if he were to get punched on, I know he's willing to defend himself. And that is huge in lessons in life. It goes back to a friend of mine who is also a coach, a content creator, very successful in many ways. And part of his story is he was always a humble kid. He was always very quiet, but he's a big guy now. Like, he goes to the gym. He's huge. But he's in high school. He was at his locker, and somebody came up and slapped him in the back of the head. And he said he didn't know what came over him that day. And he chased the kid down, and he just beat him to a bloody pulp. And then he got pulled in the principal's office, and there was a teacher who saw what happened. And they wanted to suspend him, and the teacher says, no, he got hit first. And you know what? If he didn't do something in that moment, I think he was like a freshman, they would have picked on him for the next 4 years. Like, let's suspend the other kid who's the troublemaker and let this kid be, because all he was doing was defending himself, and we'll probably not have another problem with him for the next 4 years. And he said that changed his whole perspective on the world. He knew that he could defend himself, and in the right moment, doing the right thing for himself, somebody else recognized it. And I think that's what happened with my son. I know he doesn't want to go and punch on people, but he also doesn't want to get pushed over and pushed on and beat up on. And I really think he gained confidence, self-esteem, self-respect in that moment. And again, I'm not condoning hitting, but I'm really proud that he's not going to walk around school or go to the bus stop and be, for lack of a better term, scared going to school. I don't know jack about parenting, but I know something about life. And if you let bullies bully you, they will. And I'm glad at 7, he stuck up for himself. We'll see you in the next episode.
Do you want to be the dad you wish you had? If so, go get my free book, Be the Dad You Wish You Had, at BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com. Inside, you'll find my most effective 40 tips to quickly and easily transform yourself into the ideal dad. Go to BeTheDadYouWishYouHad.com now and get it while it's free.